Good afternoon, John. Thank
Hi,
you
Ninder.
for taking out some valuable time for us, because I know you're a busy man.
It's a pleasure. I've got nothing on my plate at all at the moment, Ninder. Just relaxed, chilled, you know.
Well, let me, for those who don't know, and I'm extraordinary if they don't know, but let me just quickly give a bit of a CV on who's sitting in front of me. So you were the former president of the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce, director of Advantage West Midlands, which is a regional investment board. You were voted 2003 West Midlands Businessman of the Year. 2004 you were voted UK Lawyer of the Year. You've received doctorates from Birmingham University, Birmingham City University. You were the High Sheriff for the West Midlands, 2006 and 7. And in 2017, you became the Lord Lieutenant of the West Midlands. I think you've chaired the Hippodrome and you've chaired quite a few other organisations. But I'm here today because you are the chair of the Board of Directors charged with delivering the Commonwealth Games. And for those who don't know, that's taking place on the 28th of July to the 8th of August. The biggest global event in 2022, and you are the man at the helm. And it's an extraordinary global event. All the eyes will be on Birmingham and the West Midlands and the UK. And I bet in March 2020, when certain thing hit the UK and the globe, I wondered what you were thinking as the chair of the biggest global event due to happen 2 years later. What did go through your mind, John? And great to have you on the show.
Yeah, well, you're asking me to remember what we've all forgotten, haven't we? Because it was a strange time, wasn't it? So all these rumours going around. I think the first thing was someone saying to me that anybody over 70 had to stay at home for 13 weeks. So I think you must be joking, because obviously that's me. So I went home and told Diana that. And we've got 2 teenage kids at home, so that wasn't really going to work, was it? Actually, of course, what happened, the lockdown was such a shock, wasn't it? And what happened, as well as what was happening here in the business world, everything was upside down, wasn't it? Everything was up for grabs. How long were things going to take? So I don't think I had too much time for reflection. My recollection is that these words like Zoom and Teams and Google Meet and all these sort of things, new words came into my vocabulary, and pretty much from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, relentlessly, I was just doing that. And mainly around business as well as here.
And of course, on the horizon was the Tokyo Games, which is almost like a footprint of what was going to happen here. So you were obviously watching the Tokyo Games, and of course they were adamant at the start, we are going to go ahead fully fledged, and in the end they did obviously a sort of a lesser version. Were you thinking this could be us at the Commonwealth Games?
Yes, of course I was. Yeah, so we were immediately into some issues. Obviously, the capital projects were the first things, and a lovely Birmingham story, actually, and a Sandwell story. So that the contractors at the Aquatic Century in Sandwell and at Alexander Stadium, they in both different contractors, they got all the lads and lasses together and said to them, we don't know how serious this is, we don't know how dangerous it is. Do you remember that? Yeah, we all know now, but at the time, we didn't know. They were talking about 1%, 2% deaths. No one knew how bad it was. People take it home to their family. So they said, we'd quite understand if you want to walk off site, but if you do, of course, that would be the end of it, really. And they all put their hand up and they carried on, which was fantastic. And if you go around there, they're finished now, but if you've gone around there a few months ago, the spirit, the atmosphere, the excitement, just the sheer pride of all those people who just battled on and got it done. So obviously that was the first big risk. And then the village, you remember the village that was going to be built? That was the next thing. It was quite clear that was never going to be finished in time once COVID struck, because that was such a big development. So how are we going to house all the athletes? So we obviously had to clear that with all the way up through the civil service, up through right up the Prime Minister as well at the time, and then go and talk to the universities and the NEC, negotiate with them within our budget. And so all that was incredibly time consuming. And the thing that people forget, this was a start-up. So it's all very well saying we'll end up with 1,500 people. We started with 1. So by the time, I can't give the numbers, but at that time we were probably 100, 150 people. So we were still recruiting, but we were recruiting people we never saw apart from the neck upwards. My director of legacy, Nicola Turner, I interviewed and signed her up in March, met her here, above where we are now, and I didn't see her again for months, apart from on a screen.
And how did you find, because they say leadership is truly tested in moments of crisis. I mean, this was a huge crisis. And so how testing was it to keep everybody on the executive level on track, and despite all that was going around you, how difficult did you find that personally?
No, well, actually not difficult. I don't want to sound too grand, but
No.
you get to a certain point. I've been through a few business crises in my life, of course. Every decision has its own timetable, and you learn that. So you're faced with a dilemma, faced with a decision. Well, obviously, some things you have to decide straight away, and make a decision there on the spot. Other things, no, I've got time over this. I've got time. Yeah, and let other people think about it. Let other people have their thoughts on it, and listen to those thoughts, and make the decision. Make a timely decision, but don't be rushed into things, particularly those big capital projects, those big long-term decisions, which in a way that you might regret. So one of the first things you do in those situations is, how long have I got to decide this? What's the timetable for this decision? And then everyone will be yapping away, saying, oh, it's urgent, it's desperate now. And you think it through yourself. I think, well, that's probably not, actually. Let's take a bit more time over it. So I don't remember it being... life's like that anyhow, isn't it? My expression for that is I take this stuff to bed with me every night. Every business needs someone who takes it to bed with them every night, takes a strategy to bed with them every night, is constantly thinking about where this business should be, where it should be heading, whatever the issues are of the day. So I think you get used to that.
So just a couple of questions. You talk about crisis in the past when you were running businesses. Of course, there's a bit of a difference here, because part of your crisis management involves stakeholders sitting at number 10 and at number 11. Most businesses don't have that extra stakeholder. You had the stakeholders, Birmingham City Council.
Obviously, here.
So you had a number of stakeholders that you also had to stay in touch with, and you're balancing all of that. So how difficult was it managing those stakeholders, which most businesses don't have to worry about other than managing the business? How difficult was that?
Well, looking back on it, of course, it's not much different now, actually. There are issues today, aren't there? People get themselves excited about different things, don't they? So there were issues, obviously, that took a lot of talking round. But again, in the way I've just said, you can pretty much anticipate where people are going to come from. And probably sometimes it's good to let them have a long say, and get it out of the system a bit, and then not start arguing at the beginning. Come back with a reasoned response once they've got it all out on the table. The one good thing, when I look back on the games, when I look back on the things I think have been really valuable, one of them high up there will be the way the partners, the stakeholders have come together. We're not famous in this region for working together. We're not Greater Manchester. We're Birmingham, Black Country, Coventry, aren't we? Combined authority. We're not well known for being people who collaborate well together. The collaboration on the games has been excellent. I honestly haven't had a difficult moment with Andy Street or Ian Ward, or we've all, and the leaders of Coventry, Wolverhampton, for example, Solihull, Samwell, all the people who are involved in the games have all worked really well together. There's not been that sort of, which I gather has happened in previous games. There's not been a lot of tension, not a lot of land grabbing. That's what you normally get, isn't it? I want the credit for this. This is mine. Not too much of that. Not too much of that.
Well, I can testify to that, because I used to sit on the Black Country LEP, and when the whole proposal about the Commonwealth Games came into play, I don't recall anybody in the Black Country saying, well, that's their problem, not ours. And everybody did chip in.
Well,
so absolutely right.
That's a really good example. So when I took the role on and looked at it, obviously I knew nothing about it until I did. There was a lot in Coventry, there was a lot in Solihull, there was nothing in the Black Country, which obviously wasn't right. And it had all been carved up and agreed where it was all going to go, and including the two bicycle races were down in Coventry and Warwickshire. But then I talked to Coventry, I talked to the LEPs, I talked to Birmingham City Council. It didn't take long before there was an agreement, actually, one of the cycle races should be up in the Black Country. No one really fought for it, which is excellent. So it starts in Wolverhampton now, as you know. It'll be a terrific event. The Black Country will love it.
And of course, we've got the Aquatic Century in Sandwell, which is going to be a world class.
I think that'll probably be the thing that everyone will look at after us. I think it'll be extraordinary. We've got a great plan. So, as you know, Muslim women don't swim. Not trained to swim. I've got a colleague here who works for me very closely, Shah, who's a woman in her mid-40s, never swum in her life, never worn a swimming costume, all the things you would expect. So we're teaching her to swim, and the plan is to teach 10,000 young Muslim girls to swim in that swimming pool, pretty shortly, within a short time after the Aquatic Centre. That would be terrific, wouldn't it? It'd be a lot of fun as well.
Absolutely. You talked about going to sleep with a strategic plan. It keeps you awake at night wondering what's... That one of the things that has always dogged major events, particularly Olympics and Commonwealth Games, is the numbers, the finance. And of course, as COVID hit, that must have taken a hit on the numbers, because suddenly sponsors are thinking, is this going to take place?
Yeah.
How much of a problem were the numbers, or did it all work out in the end, or was it?
It's all worked out in the end.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's quite obvious to anybody who's listening to this who's involved in business that the budget didn't go to plan. How could it? Ironically, odd things happen. Yeah, we've recruited behind the curve. That saved some. That wasn't the plan. It's just the way it's inevitably it's been. There were quite a lot of costs went into rerouting all the village into the universities. A lot of money went into COVID planning, because obviously we had to plan for different scenarios. It's all very well to say we're the one we're in now, but you think a year ago we weren't thinking we'd be in this one. We could have been we could have been running the games, but no spectators. That was quite possible, wasn't it? A lot of cost for that.
Correct.
Sponsorship was bound to come in late. Ironically, perhaps we've done well on sponsorship. We've got the largest number of sponsors of any Commonwealth Games, as it happens.
Oh, well done.
I think a lot of that is down to this great city, what it's got to offer, the richness of the city, its youth, its energy, and a lot of it probably is down to COVID, ironically. The people are thinking, we haven't been out there doing much in the last couple of years. We need to get our name out there. How can we do that?
Yeah. So catching up.
So all the sponsors I've met and spoken to, they've all got slightly different reasons for why they've supported the games, but that is in there somewhere. And there's a lot of, quite rightly now, a lot of interest in major corporates in inclusivity, in the broader sense of the word, EDI and all the rest of it. And the fact that we've really focused on that, the games for everyone in this city and in this region, I think has also made it particularly attractive.
You were speaking about recruitment and how actually you were having to do it through Zoom. Did you think at some point, because these people are people, did you think, oh crikey, this system of recruitment, we might be taking some people on exactly we don't know about? Were there risks attached to that sort of recruitment?
Absolutely. And apart from the fact it's an amazing event, it's not a great offer, is it? Come and work for us, and we're guaranteed you in August 2022 we'll make you redundant. It's not necessarily where people see their careers, but it is an exciting, attractive thing to do, isn't it? And probably, if you go back 3 years ago, and you'd asked me this question, I said, well, one thing that won't be a problem will be recruitment, because there's plenty of people looking for work, plenty of opportunities here. And ironically, as you know now, the labour market's really tight, so actually it's been a real challenge. So if you walked around this building and looked at people too closely, you'd see some pretty tired-looking people. They're working there flat out. We haven't really quite got the numbers we need.
And is everything on track as per the original?
Generally, yeah. It's a trite thing. I've been saying it for 3 years. My fingers crossed behind my back. We're on time, we're on budget. Because what else can you say? But actually, I could say it now. Look, my hands are completely not crossed at all. It's true. We're on time and on budget, and we're in line. We'll come within budget. A great game. It should be quite something, won't it?
Now, infrastructure is important. Getting people around, moving people around. They say one of the things to plan for is the unplannable. In other words, the crisis you can't see coming. A month ago, I didn't see this coming, but it's coming. A national rail strike.
Yeah.
Now, crikey, it's crisis after crisis. So, I know it's happening in the summer. I don't know the dates. I think it's June, July, or something. But it's quite close. Any observations on that? Do you think that's going to be a problem?
Probably a single bullet to the head. Probably. We've worked so hard on that. Obviously, the transport, apart from the venues themselves, the transport responsibility around here, as you know, is with a combined authority.
That's right.
Who put a lot of effort into it. And you can see the council have delayed some of their work, for quite rightly, but you can see it happening now, can't you? Roads being improved. So, and the people who run the transport plan here, done it before, very knowledgeable. So I say to them quite often, I know Birmingham inside out. You cannot get from the Vale site to Alexander Stadium in that time. They say, well, trust us, you will be able to on the day. So I'm as confident as I can be that good people have done the work. I can't check that myself, but a rail strike would be very disappointing, wouldn't it? And how we can put on extra buses, but you know that 40 people in the bottom of a bus, 40 people up top. That's hardly a train, is it?
No.
And all the logistical problems of that. So we're starting to see what we can do and what we can plan. But a rail strike would be very disappointing. It would be very hard on this city.
Yeah.
We've had 40 years of economic decline here.
That's
then
right.
we had austerity, and then COVID. This place has had a hammering, economically and socially, hasn't it?
COVID didn't help.
And so, for this one great opportunity to come along to give us all a bit of an economic lift, to have a rail strike would be tough.
But of course, the good news is the tram should be up and running.
Yeah,
I hear today, so that's good.
They will be. I'm sure they will be. Yes,
yeah. So the tram is good.
Yeah.
So one of the things people always talk about major events, particularly around the Commonwealth and Olympics, is the legacy bit. So when everybody's disappeared, I know you said a few minutes ago, when the games are finished, people disappear, but there's a legacy element to it. What does that legacy look like for those people from the West Midlands and Birmingham? What will that legacy look like?
So we all have to, we're all interested in different things, aren't we? So obviously you've got the capital projects you talked about, and the branding of the city, and the business and tourism programme. All of that, I'm sure, the business and tourism programme will probably go on for 10 years, fully funded. So there's all of that. My interest has been, so obviously what you get is a slanted answer from me. My interest has been in bringing opportunities to young people, because we know, and that was before COVID, even more important now. So we've raised the funds for a terrific schools programme, an outreach programme, which only started in January. We had to raise the money, get up and running. We've got a fantastic team. If you met this team here, you'd be overwhelmed by what they're doing, and their energy and enthusiasm. That will run on after the games. That'll reach most of the children in the West Midlands, 1 million of them.
Yeah.
And then we've got a Generation 22, which is bringing opportunities to people who are lacking opportunity outreach. That we've got funding for that for some time as well. We've captured all the volunteers, so we're going to have a database of 20,000 people who want to volunteer that we can use. We've something that Games has never done before, which is quite innovative. We offered our logo to charities who reached who pitched and had to get to a certain level. We've got 130 of those we can work with now going forward. We've got some real skills in our team here that we can help them raise more money, do capacity building, and then. Again, very a good idea. I think we, in all our procurement contracts, we had a 10%. You value a procurement contract 100% on money, quality, all the rest of it. We allocated 10% to social value. So everybody who bid for a procurement contract had to say what social value they would deliver to us, and that's worth millions. So we can capture that and use that going forward as well. So we've done some things here which have never been done before. I think the Federation are really impressed with those, and we'll take them to Victoria. So I think the legacy hasn't started yet. That's where I believe it'll be post-games, and we can do a lot.
I thought one of the comments you made earlier, which was an interesting one, was around diversity. I mean, it's a huge diverse city. The region's very diverse. How difficult was it to capture all the stakeholders, all the communities? I mean, that must have been...
It's so difficult, isn't it?
So difficult.
I mean, in the lieutenancy, so you know this, I've tried so hard, before Games ever came along, to get data. I know that every 3 years in Birmingham we welcome people from over 180 different countries to become British citizens. I know that. I meet them. Where do they go? Well, of course, they all tend to go and join their communities, don't they? Right. So just in Birmingham alone, we probably have up to 185, 190 communities of different heritage in our great city, all living side by side. I mean, it's a brilliant thing. Yeah. But to get to know those communities and reach them and try and bring things to them is a real struggle, and there is no data. I've tried so many different ways to get it. So come forward to the Games. That's been a challenge, no question of that. I'm sure there will be communities with a small c who feel that we haven't reached them. We've got a community engagement team of about a handful of people here. That's all we can afford. It's not our job to do community engagement. Our job is to put the Games on.
That's right.
But I nagged and chivered and got some money for those people. But they can't reach 3 million people. So we get criticised for that. I understand the criticism. I'd for not reaching everybody, but it's just almost impossible. But we're still working flat out at it.
I think it goes both ways. The communities need to reach out.
Well, there's a bit of midfield
as well, isn't it? Both ways.
There's so much social media and so much on our website. We've run so many programs for businesses about procurement. The first one I did had 500 people there. We've done so much of that. So communication is a two-way thing in a way. But we still have people who say, you haven't told us about this. Yeah, and we're doing a lot more in the next few months. We're really going to give it everything we've got, try and reach more communities. You have used that word. It's our community in Ninder, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're all in this together, aren't we?
That's
And that's
right.
the bit I struggle with a bit. That you want this is such a unique opportunity for everybody. For your neighbour, everybody should get behind it. And we would have made mistakes, and afterwards, people can chuck eggs at us. But at the moment, the thing is to do our best to make it work.
And how are the tickets going?
We're up to 1.2, 1.3 million.
Wow.
Out of 1.7.
Wow.
There's still some on the market, for some of the smaller events, specialist events, early cricket matches, for example. We're well above where we thought we would be, and they'll carry on selling, I think.
Quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
From where we were
we
started back in March 2020. I mean, the world imploded, and you think, crikey.
The other thing about it, I mean, it's just a daft comment, really, but I still haven't got my head around the scale of it. There are still sort of, really? So I know over 1 billion people will be watching on television, because I had that stat right from the start. And I know there are over 1.5 million tickets. I've had that stat right from the start. But when you and I start thinking about our city, and you think, 1.5 million people coming here for 11 days? Yeah, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
So we started chatting about all your roles.
Yeah.
So when the call must have come through, Mr. John, listen, you got a bit of spare time. Would you like to chair the Commonwealth Games? What was your thinking? Did you think, this is huge? Because you are a pretty community-based person. Is that what drove you to say, I'll take this? Because it's a hell of a role.
So I can't pretend I'm a deep thinker, and I give it a lot of deep thought. I think from your role with me that the two things I've been absolutely committed to before I was Lord Lieutenant, but all my career really, is one, promoting to Birmingham, and I include the West Midlands in that, because from the day I started working in 1971, manufacture was 39% of our GDP here, went down in single figures. Every single year for 40 years, our GVA was less than the year before, so it was an awful statistic. Some of the poorest wards in Europe. Words like left behind and levelling up don't come near the challenge we faced here. At the end of that 40 years, when things were beginning to pick up and new sectors were taking off, yours, creative sector, cultural sector, of course we had this, we had a global financial crisis, we had this new word austerity, all the cuts in public sector funding that we've had. So this has been a really rough time. So we've allowed other people to write our script, and they're not very flattering about us, and we haven't written our own, and ours is great. We've got a great story here, haven't we? So that always frustrated me, so I wanted to promote the Midlands as much as I could. I've always tried to do that, so what could be better than this? And then the other thing we've touched on already, all our communities are a small city. You and I work tirelessly to try and knit them together. We want everybody to know their neighbour, don't we, and know where they've come from, and be one single community. And again, this is a fantastic catalyst for that, isn't it? So it wasn't something I was looking for. I didn't have any time. Diana probably was, getting ready to shoot me. But in the end, those two things I've always focused on. I thought, well, actually, I'm bonkers if I don't do this, really. If they really can't find anybody else.
Now, it's interesting what you've just said. And people see the role of business, of putting something back, and you're a great example. So would you say to other business leaders, do think about can we put something back, because it really is important?
I think it's different than that, and if I can share that. I think the bit they miss, and I know this is not, I believe, this is fact. When I'll take your comment, when I'm interviewing people to be trustees of a charity or something, and they say I want to give something back, I normally just quietly put a line through their name in my head, because actually what you get from doing those things, you learn the whole time. And you can be chairing a deafblind charity, Sense, which I would give my life for, part of my family, Dana says, part of our family. I can be there, talking to deafblind people, hearing what they're doing there, and there's something there that will be relevant to my business world. I can promise you. I could give you, we haven't got time, I'll give you so many examples of that. I could be doing something in the creative sector, I could be at the Hippodrome thinking about something, listening to something, and I think, do you know what? That's completely relevant to my business over here. Obviously, I'll change it and twist it to make it relevant to that business, but the idea. So business people who stay in their own business and don't get out there and do other stuff, in the end are limiting themselves. They're going to end up doing the same thing in the same way. There's a miracle of difference, Ninder. You have to get out and welcome that. It's absolutely a fact. And the more you do that, the better the more you'll learn, the more you'll get out of business. I've no doubt about that. I know that as a fact. So it's not giving something back. You learn from it. You gain from it. You really do.
And in your various chair roles, and you got people asking for NED roles. So what do you look for when you look into their eyes? What do you look for then because there are a lot of people who want to become NEDs or people who are chairs of NEDs and looking for advice, and you've got a fantastic CV. What do you look for then when
in what?
In a NED who wants to join a board that you're chair? What do you look for?
If what you should be trying to do is to put pieces into a jigsaw. So take what we do in the lieutenancy. Yeah, so all the time I'm trying to put bits in a jigsaw. So I've got to cover a geographical area. Yes, I've got to cover beliefs, faith, heritage. I've got to cover skills. And so quite often I'll be thinking, I need a DL in a creative sector, someone who leads in that. So I find Fiona Allen, and then she goes back to Australia. So I have to look for somebody else. That's what you do with a board, isn't it? You look at the skills you've got, because they're not the same in every single board. No. Of course they're not. When I chair things, the things I take on, the first thing I do is think, well, can I add any value to this? There's no point chairing it just to turn up and chair meetings. I don't want to do that. Is there something in this business and these people where I can actually offer something that they need? And then I focus on that. So I'm not too good at all the, spending lots of time on the governance and all the rest of it. I don't want to ring the chief exec up every Friday and say, how's the cash? That's the last thing I want to do. I want him to be ringing me or her to be ringing me saying, John, can you help me with this? And if I can't do that, I shouldn't be doing it. That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And just sticking on to that before then move on to the final comments. A lot of people who sit on non-exec boards and chair find it difficult not to interfere.
Yeah.
I mean, you've just gave a great example of where not to interfere.
Yeah.
Any advice on how they manage sort of the non-exec role versus meddling too much? How do you...
Well, not advice. I must admit, I've never found that a challenge. I think if you chair something, you know at the end of the day you are responsible for it. You are ultimately responsible for it. So in very simplistic terms, you have to make sure you've got a very strong team. And you have to be thinking about that the whole time. You have to know that team, you have to listen to them. And you have to find ways of in being inquisitive without being too obvious, really. So cups of tea, a beer after work. Getting to understand them. But at the end of the day, you've got to support them. The business has to be run by them. You're a menace. Yeah. You're an absolute menace if you turn up and wander around the building, making daft comments, and you're a menace. So you mustn't do that. It's pretty obvious, really, isn't it? But you're responsible for that chief executive being the best you can get, and if it's not, then or she's not, you have to look at that.
And they say one of the key roles of a chair is recruitment of talent and management of talent, and that's what really your...
Well, I think it's picking the right people, isn't it? And I'm no better at that than anybody else. I've made lots of mistakes in my life. What have I done here? We've all done that, haven't we? But the culture as well. The culture is really important. For me, I always think businesses have sort of 4 building blocks. So they have clients, that's consumers and market and all the rest of it. They have profit, obviously, that's obvious. They have quality, and they have people. And you work on those 4 constantly all the time, and you'll build something really special. And I'm better at that than in 10 years' time, Ninder, we're going to have maps all over the world, and we're going to be 1 million people. I'm not very good at that. I like to build things up and keep moving the whole. Diana says I move the goalposts the whole time. I do. Once we get to there, move it on, move it on. But the people side of things, it's very simple. That if you will never have brighter, sexier, more attractive people than the next competing business. I mean, you won't. However good you are at recruitment. So it's all about their motivation, isn't it? It's all about developing a single team. It's all about people working for each other, not being territorial, not being turf-like. Well, how do you get that? Well, that's about insecurity, isn't it, and stress. And where does stress come from? Well, stress doesn't come from working hard. You get tired and grumpy, but it's not stressful. What keeps you awake at night is, am I doing a good job? What does my boss think of me? Am I safe? Am I going to get the next promotion? So I've been a great believer all my working life to make sure all the people who work for me know exactly where they are. And have an adult relationship with them. People, bosses talk about loyalty. That's just nonsense. You want people to work for you because they're gaining something from it. So in my simple terms, if I'm running a business and the business is seen to be successful, getting more successful, then they'll stay because it's adding to CV, their own goodwill, because they're part of that business. If also they're learning something the whole time, adding to their skills, again, they're adding to their CV. So they'll be happy with me. And I say to them all the time, yeah, you're an adult, don't be an employee. If you're getting bored with your work or not looking after, come and tell me. And that, in my career, they always have. And and you have to sort it out. And you go away and find out what the issue is. Sometimes you have to come back and say, well, I'm really sorry, Ninder, actually your boss thinks you're hopeless. When you don't want to say that, but you have to be honest. And if you do that for long enough, people start to trust it. And then the stress goes away. So I said to people, why are you having a sleepless night about where you are in your career? Why aren't you asking me? Why aren't you talking to me? So at my old law firm, people would dread getting in the lift with me or going into the gents because I'd say, how are you getting on? Tell me. And that is so powerful. It's so powerful.
Two things you've said there, and then I want you to add a third. So one you talked about is communication. It's communicating with people. Second one, you used the word trust. So people have got to be able to trust what you say. So if you were advising people in leadership roles or thinking of going to leadership, you've talked two of them, which is communication and trust. Could you add a third, something else in terms of leadership that you would...
Well, leadership is all about followership, isn't it? You can't have one without the other. So, what you take to bed with you every night is, how can I... people shouldn't trust me just because I sound good or say the right words. It's about behaviour, conduct, isn't it? So it's grace under pressure. Never, ever lose your temper. Never shout at the member of staff. Why on earth would you want to do that? We've all been there. We've all made mistakes. The minute you do that, you're finished, in my view, as a leader. Think about it. You lead by fear. Is that really what you want to do?
Yeah.
All the people listening?
Sounds like the old football teams.
What's that person's mum going to say when they know that you've destroyed their kids' morale? So you never lose it. Whatever's going on in your personal life, grace under pressure at all times, however rough it is for you. And I've had bad things in my life, and I press the lift button on the basement, I park my car, and I go on, smile on Crabtree, here we go. You must do that, or don't go to work as a leader. Half full, never half empty. I know they're words, but they matter. They matter, Ninder. You have to be half full. You have to be. Otherwise, don't get into a leadership role. It's not for you.
And I suppose my sort of final question, because time is almost up. How they talk about self-awareness as a leader. How do you know you're doing a good job as a leader? How do you know? Can you tell?
That's what you take to bed with you every night. You're never good enough, are you? No, that's the torture of it, isn't it? But I think. My missus would say I never do yips. That's what she says. So, we won awards. I won awards. Businesses I've been involved in won plenty of awards. By the time we get them, I'm just sort of what? Okay, and she gets really cross with me. Come on, you're meant to jump up and down. And well, no, that was last year. Yeah. Year end. Why am I interested in the audited accounts? I've done all that. I'm worried about next month. So you're never there. Never there.
And how important is goal setting? Do you think that's goal setting goals? People always talk about, as a leader, you've got to set goals.
Well, that's never been me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
No, not really. I come back to my building blocks. If you get all the people in the right place, and you constantly work on equality, improving what you're doing. In other words, you never settle for where you are. You move the goalpost. That's where I'd be. I'm not a great goal setter. If anybody had listened to this from my old law firm, they'd say, "You talked to me for half an hour. I've not said ham sandwich." Because I'm a great believer in if you put the bread on the water, I used to think it would come back buttered. It doesn't matter. It could take 5 years. If you just conduct yourself in a way you would like people to conduct themselves with you, and you're constantly trying to do your best, things come back from that you don't expect. And then years and years ago, I was down in Dartmouth where I had a boat, and there was a beautiful picture of a ham sandwich bouncing off the water. And I went up to the artist and said, "Can I have that picture?" And he said, No, I painted that. That's my dad's favourite expression. If you put the bread on the water, it will come back a ham sandwich. And then he said, "So it's not for sale." And he said, "Well, why do you want it?" So I told him, and he went away, and then came back 5 minutes later, it was all wrapped up, and gave it to me.
Wow!
I have it on my wall at home. I've always believed in that. If you want good things to happen to you, you have to do it yourself, don't you? Always put the bread on the water all the time. Always try and add value to everything you're doing, and then quirky, lovely things will happen to you that you weren't looking for. So I'm not good at setting goals. That's not,
Interesting. John, time is up. It's been fascinating getting your insight into managing, chairing the biggest global event to come in this country for decades. I think the World Cup was the last one, I think, where the eyes of the globe were on this country. Interesting hearing about all the issues of managing stakeholders, managing communities. I thought it was interesting giving your insight into why business leaders should get involved in their community outside of their business, not giving back, but actually learning from it. Managing and coping with things we don't know are going to happen, that may happen. And I think you gave great insight because you've been through many crises before. This one probably didn't ruffle you as much because of that. And I thought your insights into leadership based on all those various roles you've had were very revealing. I'm going to wish you the best with the Commonwealth Games.
I'm going to need it.
I'm hoping everything will go well, which I think it will.
To being done.
which I think it will.
Yeah.
I think all the signs are great. We've got billions of people going to be tuning in to watch the most fascinating Commonwealth. It was the biggest athletics, I think, since, and Tokyo, of course, didn't happen in the way it should have happened. So I'm going to wish you the best.
Thank you, Ninder.
I thought I'd grab you.
I can absolutely promise you at the opening ceremony, I will, don't let Jazz over here take any photographs, because I'll be crying my eyes out. Absolutely promise you. It will just be fantastic, won't it?
Yes,
I won't
it will.
have a dry eye. It'll be impossible. Absolutely impossible. It'll be so moving, won't it? And I know that. You can feel it now. It's there. It's just, yeah, it's, we need it here, and we've earned it.
And I think, John, I applaud you for the time, the effort you've put in for the city of Birmingham, for the West Midlands. And I think you're a great shining example how future generations should look at contributing to their region in which they're growing up, they're living, they're having their leisure, and they work in. And it's a fantastic city, and it's a fantastic country. And you're the epitome of all of that. So thank you very much for all you've done and
Pleasure,
all you will
thank
continue to do.
Thanks, thank you.
Thank you. And by the way, I know you don't like this, but John will be in the front cover of the Business Influencer magazine, so look at it. I love the photos we did earlier on today. John, thank you very much, and have a great day. Thanks.
Not at all. Pleasure, Ninder. Thanks
Cheers.
very much.